All right, so I'm out here junkyard shopping, and you see I've got a 3rd gen CRV behind me. Now we're going to be trying out the 3rd gen diff. Here we have the differential off of that 3rd gen Honda CRV. This one is a little bit different than the stock CRV diff. Like I said, this one is off of 07 to 11 Honda CRV. It's also the same for the Honda Cross Tour that's all-wheel drive, but these are ramp design and it engages much faster than the stock differential that's in these. So I've seen many people say that these are a lot better, and well, I guess now's the time to try it out. And these 3rd gen CRV differentials, they can be found on eBay or your local junkyard or whatever. I just went on car-part.com and looked up a rear axle because they didn't have anything for rear differentials. So I looked up a rear axle and found one at a yard that's just about 20 miles from me. I called him up and he's like, yeah, I have it. And I got it for $200. So that's about the going rate on them, $200 to $250 for the 3rd gen diff. And it's supposed to be direct plug and play. So we're gonna find out in this video. All right, so I just got the CRV up on the lift here, and here you can see this is our stock rear differential, and it's a little bit different than that one. You can see on this one, it's not as bulky in this area as that one is, and this one also has other cooling fins and stuff built into the side. You can see here, all these cooling fins, maybe support, whatever. You can see how that differs here. So a little bit different. It's pretty straightforward to get these out. We have to take these 4 bolts out of the drive shaft here, and those are 10 millimeter, and they're 12 point. So just a regular wrench, like just a regular old 10 millimeter wrench, box end wrench. A lot of times a ratcheting wrench won't fit on here, and a lot of times you may be able to get a socket in here, but it's going to be a tight fit. So we got to take off those 4, and then there's a 14 there, and a 14 there, okay? And then there's these bolts here. There's both 17s. A lot of times, well, most of all of them, they all have this torque dampener that is broken, just as mine is, okay? It's not important. I'll probably be taking this off of mine and not putting it back on. Just a heads up. And additionally, it does have this breather tube that runs from the diff up here, and it deadheads right there. So we'll need to take that off too. It has a little union in it right here, so we can probably take it apart at that union and leave this part of the hose out here so it doesn't break here, and it'll let this part over here go with the diff. All right, the first thing I want to do before I lower this down, taking the axles out or anything, is to take out the 17 millimeter drain plug and drain the fluid out of it. Now, if you were servicing it, I would make sure that the fill one loosens before you remove the fluid, because if the service one will not open, then you can't put fluid back in it. So it would be bad if you drain the fluid out. But anyways, we'll go ahead and get this drain bolt removed and get the fluid drained out into my drain pan. Now also, you can't spin this drive shaft if yours is automatic and it's put in park. But if you put it in neutral or any other gear with the engine turned off, you should be able to turn it by hand. Mine is a manual, so it's just left in neutral and I can spin it. So now with the fluid drained and the drive shaft loose, we can loosen. I'm going to loosen this bolt and this bolt, the 14s. And what that's going to allow me to do is push this whole lower control arm and everything out, and it's going to give me enough slack to be able to put a pry bar here and pop this axle cup out of the diff. And no, taking these out will not mess up your alignment because it is not adjustable. It is what it is. So now with those bolts out, we'll go to right here with a flat blade screwdriver, pop that axle out, and the same thing on this side. Pop those out, and then should be able to push out on the wheel. Yeah, and hold the axle. There we go. There we go. Got it out. And we'll do the same over here. Okay, now the same thing for this side. We'll just push out. And then got both the axles out. So you can see there, both of the axles are out. I just got them laid up here. I may use something and tie them up just so they don't fall down whenever I take the diff out. Just put a bungee cord around the exhaust there. And I don't know, maybe we can get something and tie it back to the subframe. See, there we go. Just took that old bungee strap, tied it up there, got them. You can see they're not even touching the diff or nothing now, so they're good and stable up there, out of the way. And now we can go ahead and get this ram horn mount, whatever, out of the way with those 214s. And then the last thing that'll be left standing is this rear mount. On the breather tube, I was able to just pop it off the end over there. I just twisted it a little bit and it came right off, so maybe that'll work for you too. Really long bolts, really long. All right, so what I'm going to do first is the rear bolt here. I'm just going to loosen it a little bit, and then I'm going to take out the 2 bolts. I'm going to take out the 2 bolts right here. Take off the torque dampener all the way. But leave that rear bolt in. That allows clearance. What is it? All right, so now we have both differentials here on the ground. This is the 1st gen and this is the 3rd gen. So what we got to do is take this top mount off and bolt it onto this one. We have to take the rear mount off of the 3rd gen diff, and then go ahead and swap our breather tube. Make sure that it'll work onto the 3rd gen diff. And I purely went off the torque spec of Guten tight for that. So now that we've got that done, we can put this hose here back up on here. That output, or the outlet rather, for the breather was straight on that one, and it comes off at a 90. but it's still okay. We'll just you can see where the dirt on there where these were before, so it'll still clamp right back on there in the same spots. And it just has a little different angle of the dangle right there on the hose, but it's still doing the same function. Conjunction, junction, what's that function? All right, so we got those bolts all back in here. Got the bolts up here, that one and the one over here, right there. Got all these tight. Now we just got to get the axles back in and get the lower control arms back on. So we'll put those axles back in the same way that we took them out. Now with both of those in, all we gotta do is reinstall the drive shaft. So once it goes up here, probably have to rotate it to where we get it to proper alignment. Bada bing, bada boom, right there it is. So let's get our bolts. And last but not least, we have to do the fluid. So we'll drain the fluid out here. This one is a little bit different than the first gen. This one uses a 3/8, just ratchet. Put your ratchet in here, break that loose, and the fill is gonna be on right here at the back on the passenger side. So instead of them being directly on top of each other like they were on the first gen diff, drain, feel. And anytime you're doing a rear diff service on one of these CRVs, whether it's first, second, third gen, whatever, I always recommend only the OEM Honda genuine dual pump fluid. This is available at your local dealer or Amazon or any of those same. Recently though, my dealer hasn't had the actual Honda, they've had the Acura. It's the same stuff, it's just a different part number. Literally, if you look at the back, on the back at the part number, the Acura number is the exact same, it just has an A on the end, or the front, something. It's an A on it, it's the only difference. Same exact stuff. I will put a link in the description for Amazon if you wish to find some off Amazon. And it takes 1.1 quarts. Typically, I just use 1 quart and it's good. All right, and to put the fluid into the rear diff, I'm going to use this super complicated bottle pump. It's not complicated at all. It just screws right. You take the cap off of the bottle, screw this in down into it, and then you just pump it and it squirts the fluid out of the hose and into the diff. So we'll just pump it until the fluid comes out or we run out of this fluid. And that pretty much wraps up this 3rd gen rear differential install. The only thing left to do is to go test it. But first, I've got to replace my drive shaft because my U-joint up here is bad. So, you need to know how to replace a drive shaft. Be sure to check out the video that I'll link up here. And then we'll go rip it, see if it does any better.